Yo, what's good on today's video? I got how to make Forsaken Part 7 and stuff. Guys, do not stress and do not worry just because I haven't uploaded a video for a series in a minute and stuff. Like, unless I specifically say that I'm not doing any more videos for that series, the series is still ongoing. There's still plenty more to cover in especially the Forsaken series. There's a lot more to still cover and stuff. So I'm going to be uploading more and more videos and stuff. I just got to be patient. I got 3 series going right now and other stuff to do, right? So just be patient and stuff. So here's what I did. So a lot of this is really bug fixes, but then I included something that y'all have asked me a million times for. So made it so cool. Someone pointed out to me, made it so cooldown to only apply to specific abilities. Before, the way it was that cooldowns were like if you use one ability, it would just put all like your entire ability set, move set on cooldown. I made it so that cooldowns only apply to each individual ability rather than um having it for all abilities. Then I fixed players being able to start the round as the opposite class type. What that means is made it so that players can't start the round as like if let's say they're selected as a survivor, they're not going to be able to start the round as a killer and stuff, and vice versa. I made it so players can't move during cutscenes. Some people pointed this out to me and stuff aside from the killer, of course, but players will not be able to move during cutscenes and stuff. I also fixed an issue where you're getting stuck when spawning in and stuff. This is where like when the round starts and then you get stuck in the spawn, which is a very simple fix. And then I also added the terror slash killer radius and stuff. So it's not all that complex. It's just simply whenever a survivor gets close to a killer and stuff, music will start playing and stuff, right? Um so yeah, that reminds me actually, let me, oh, okay. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get straight into the video. Okay, so let's go ahead and, because I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of changes and stuff, a lot of changes. Let's go ahead and open up the local script, right? Or actually, before I do that, let me just take care of this. So for the fixed getting stuck when spawning in, all you have to do, like if whenever the round started and like your player would get stuck in the spawn, all you have to do is just like you can select the spawns, so hold the control key and then just select all of them or do it individually. Just set can't collide to false and stuff, in all honesty. Just set can't collide to false so that they'll just pass right through it. But yeah, so then you're gonna want to go to you're gonna want to go to the local script, go after our SS variable for the sound service, go after that create variable for the run service. So RS will be equal to game get service run service, right? Then you're gonna go after the core GUI variable and you're gonna create a variable for our killer. You're gonna say killer is equal to nil. So by default, its value will be set to nil. This is going to be a string, or sorry, not a wait. I think it's a string. But the point is, this variable is going to keep track of whether or not one there is a current killer and who is that killer and stuff. So we'll know that, and we'll need to know that for the other stuff we're about to add. So you're going to scroll down till you get to the on client event function. So scroll all the way down till you get here, and then you're going to go down to find the round type, the round event, and then the round types. Events. So you're going to go down to find the in progress event. So what you're simply just going to do is you're going to go after the for loop and stuff, right? What this means is keep in mind this for loop. And so this is what happens when like during the round and stuff, right? So pretty much so anything that happens after the for loop is when the round is ended. So after the round is done, you're just going to set the killer variable equal to nil because since the round is over for whatever reason and stuff, that means there's no longer a killer because everyone's going back to spawn and everything. So pretty much the way it works is that simply we're just going to set killer equal to whoever the current killer is when a round starts, and then we'll just set it to nil when the round is over and stuff. I still haven't finished the round system as of yet and stuff. We'll finalize that. We're like, oh, when the round's over, it'll bring everyone back. It'll, say who won, or if if the killer leaves the game, then it'll end the round, or if the survivors win. So yeah, we're just building everything slowly, one at a time. So then you're gonna scroll down till you find the cutscene event type, right? We're gonna need to add a few things here. So one after the for loop, right? After that first for loop, you're gonna say if player.name is not equal to killer.name, which pretty much just means that pretty much what will precede this if statement is for the only people the stuff that will precede this if statement will only apply to people who are not the killer, so the survivors pretty much. So enter, you will then say player.character.humanoid root part dot anchored is equal to true. So this will make it so that they cannot move during the cutscene. We did change this, so there isn't a class value anymore. because in all honesty, I made it wrong and stuff. The way it's supposed to be, there's supposed to be a killer class value and then a survivor class value. So it's like you can have, both equipped and stuff at the same time. Because it makes no sense to have one value because then it gets very complicated and stuff if like, you're not selected as the killer and then you have a killer class selected. So it's just better to just make two values. So you're just gonna rename class to killer class, right? You're just gonna change that. Then you're gonna scroll down till you find the this round's killer. Yep, right here. This round's killer is, and then you're just going to simply change this, right? Yeah, we already have killer dot name. Wait, I just real wait. Oh, I already made a variable for it. Oh, I did make a variable. Oh, dang. I just realized I did make a variable for it. Okay. We're gonna have to change this. Okay, so we're gonna change this. So instead of um we're gonna change this to current killer. Yeah, we're gonna change this to current killer. Yeah, so just rename this variable to current killer at line 9. And then we're obviously gonna have to go down here and then just change that. I honestly forgot that I had a killer variable already here. But yeah, so you're just gonna go down here to this round as a killer, and then you're simply just gonna want to change this to killer class dot value, right? Then you're gonna keep going, find the animation track. I think I passed it already. Oh yeah, right here. So then go right here, and then change that to killer class, right? And then I believe that's it for I think that's it for that. Then you'll go down and then you'll go down. So after the entire thing, you're gonna skip the two ends. You're gonna skip the two ends. Then you're gonna simply just say player dot character dot humanoid part dot anchored. It's nice, well anchored. Anchored is equal to false, so that the players can move once it's over, right? Then you're going to scroll down right to after the cooldown event, and then we're going to add a new event. So you're going to press enter. You'll say else if event type is equal to killer. This is when a killer has been selected. Enter, and then the round is starting. You would say new killer is equal to arg1. Then you'll say current killer is equal to new killer, right? And then boom, we're done with that event. Then you're going to scroll down, all the way up. And then you're going to create a variable called in range. This is the terror radius that everyone has been begging me for. Is equal to false. Make sure you do everything exactly as I've done it, because this can get very buggy if you do something wrong. So you're going to say rs for the run service, and you're going to say dot heartbeat connect function close parentheses enter. Then you're going to say if killer, oh my bad, if current killer is not equal to no and stuff, right? Which means a round is currently in progress. And of course, and player dot name is not equal to current killer dot name, because obviously we don't want the killer, you don't want the killer to be able to you don't want the killer, like the music that's supposed to play for the survivors to play for the killer. So yeah, then you press enter, then we'll create a variable for this player's character. So it's player. So yeah, don't get it confused. This is the player's character, and then we'll create a variable for the killer character. So the killer's character will be equal to you will say current killer dot character, right? Then you will create a variable called distance. We'll calculate the distance between the two of them. We'll say killer character dot humanoid root part dot position minus character dot humanoid root part dot position. Go on the outside of those parentheses and put dot magnitude. Then you'll say if in range. So if in range is set to true, enter. Then you'll say, then we'll need to create one more variable. I actually forgot to create this. You're going to create a variable called now in range, right? Press enter to put a space. Then you will simply say now in range is equal to, then in parentheses, you'll say distance is less than 27, but you guys can change the number to whatever you want it to be though, right? Then you'll say else, then you'll say now in range is equal to, in parentheses, distance is less than 25. So to explain this pretty much, right? So this pretty much just means this is like pretty much the minimum distance they need to be, like if they're within 25 studs, right? So let's say you want the music to play, when they're closer and stuff, then obviously like make these numbers smaller, right? Just make these numbers smaller. If you want it to play when like when the killer is even further away, then increase the number, right? One important thing to note if you're changing the numbers, make sure the top number, right? This top number right here, right, for the if part and stuff, make sure that it is always bigger or greater, I should say, than the second number and stuff, right? And only by a little bit. This just acts as a buffer. The two studs just acts as a buffer. So you just need to make sure it's like just pretty much just add the top number should pretty much just be the bottom number plus two. Just that's a good way to think about it. Then after that, you'll say if now in range pretty much is equal to true and not in range, enter. Then what you want to do is, right, very important, you're going to want to have your sound inside of the local script. Do not have your sound, like the music that you want to play and stuff like that, for whenever a player whenever the killer gets close to the player or vice versa and stuff, do not have it inside of the sound service. What will happen is it'll play for everybody on the server. I learned that. I spent hours trying to figure out the issue, and that's what it was. The sound has to be in a local script stuff or something localized, but just put it in the script. So what you would do is same naming scheme. So you would click sound, right? Just like we did with the animation, follow the same naming scheme, right? You're going to put the name of the killer, right? And then you're just gonna put the word theme. So the name of the killer, just as it is inside of character folder and killer folder. So the name should match, and then just put the word theme, just like we did with the animation. And then that theme will play and stuff, right? So we will say script, regular bracket. You will say killer, you will say, not killer character, we want current killer, my bad. Current killer, dot killer, class, dot value, so the name of their current killer, dot, 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 quotation marks, and then you'll just put theme. And then you will say, we will set the time position. We will say dot time position is equal to 0. So you pretty much just, this is if you want the song, like the sound to start over every time it plays and stuff. If not, then you don't have to do this part. But yeah, and then we could just copy that to save ourselves some time. So just copy, Control+V, and then you'll just change this to play, and then it'll play. I'm not actually going to put a sound ID in here because I don't have time for like it getting copyrighted or anything like that and stuff. So yeah, but obviously, you would insert your sound, and then you would put your sound ID. You can get sounds from the toolbox and whatnot. So then after that, you would say else if not now in range and in range, which means pretty much just means the player is no longer in range. Then you would simply just, again, copy and paste Control+C, Control+V, right? And then you would just say stop, right? Then you're going to go after that end before the last two ends, and you'll simply just say in range is equal to now in range, and then boom, we're done with there you go, there's your terror radius, right? And then we already changed the spawn so that can't collide is disabled. Now we can move on to the server script. Okay, so we're going to open up the server script, right? First thing we're going to do is we're going to create a variable to keep track of the current killer at the top, or more so I should say their name. So after the combat module, create a variable called current killer, which will be equal to a empty string, right? Then we're going to create a function called class changer or class change, right? So the way it works is, right, simply whenever a player selects a class, y'all already know, down here, where is it? Right here, we simply just change the value, which we're gonna have to change this, by the way, but we simply just change the value, right? The way I had it before, like the way it currently is right now for y'all, is that every time a player like changes their class, it like, it does their health and their abilities. There's no reason to do that. That's actually wasting resources. I realize that because I realize in Forsaken, you don't see anything, like you can't see your abilities. Your player has your normal players character have their normal avatar while they're in the lobby. It only changes when they actually play the game. So we only need to like actually like trigger all of this stuff when the round is actually starting. So what we can do is we can go before the start round function and create a new function. We're going to say local function. You can just call it like class change or class changer or whatever. In parentheses, put player. So the player whose class will be changing, and then the class they're changing to. Enter, right? Now you're gonna go down. I need y'all to bear with me, pay attention. So you guys see over here how we have the class.change function. You're simply just going to copy and paste everything inside of that, right? Everything inside of that, right? You see, from the class found variable to the second to last end. Control C, copy it or cut it, right? And then boom, there should be no errors, right? That means you copied it properly, and then you can just delete that function. We don't need that. We don't need that anymore. Then you're gonna scroll all the way to the top. Find your class change function, paste it into it, boom, right? And then of course we're gonna have to change some things, right? So you're gonna have some errors, relax, we're gonna address those, right? So we already know character folder is good, we're just gonna go through everything. So the way we're going to do this is we're simply, we're going to do class.value that remains the same, class found, v find for child class, and then all of this stuff remains the same. And then you can just simply, say, you can just change this to, player. That's really most of these issues, to be completely honest. And stuff is just changing, it's just updating the player variable. So player, and then this, we just need to access the player sprinting speed. So player dot sprinting speed. So that's done. We go down here, then, if class found ability, then this all is the same. You just change this to player, right? And then that's literally it. So pretty much it's just really copying and pasting and some minuscule edits. Then we're done with that first function, and then we're going to go down to the start round function, make some minuscule adjustments here. So you're going to go down to the start round function. After we select the killer, you're going to go after that variable and then reassign the current killer variable. Wait, I just realized. Yeah, you're going to reassign the current killer variable is equal to killer dot name, right? So boom. Then we no longer need this function anymore. This was the pretty much like if the player currently had a survivor equipped, it would change the default killer. We don't need that anymore since we have two values to keep track of. So players can have both a survivor equipped and a killer equipped at the same time. So I'm just gonna delete that. You can just delete that entire function, right? And then after you're done there, we can move on. So this part, after we, change the killer C frame, you're gonna call the class change function, and you're gonna send over the killer instance, comma, and then you'll just say killer dot killer class, right? So just send over that. Do not send over the value. Just send over killer class. That's all you gotta do. Do not say killer class dot value, right? Then we're gonna go down here, right? And then for here, you're gonna change this. So instead of killer dot class, this is of course gonna change to killer class dot value, and then you can just copy and paste Control C, Control V, right? Boom. Then you're gonna go down here to this function, right? Then after you set the same thing, just like we did with the killer, after you set the regular survivor C frame, then you're just gonna call the class change function, then send over the player, comma V, and then send over survivor class, right? Boom, you'll go down here and then you'll just change this. So just copy and paste this Control C, Control V. And then I think it's like right here, Control V. Then I think after that it was good. And then after this, you're gonna fire the remote event. You're gonna say core event fire client singular, and then fires the specific player, comma, name of the event will be killer, comma, and then send over the specific killer, or their name, I should say, right? Or actually, no, that's sending over the instance. My bad. Yeah. That's sending over the instance of the killer. And then once we're done with that, we are good to go there. We're done with that function. Then we go down here to our player added function, and then we added two values. So before we had the class value, we're going to change that. So you're going to want to rename this to killer class, right? And then just, Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, and Control V. Very important that you pay attention to make sure everything you're doing here is, right. And then just copy that, enter, paste, change this to survivor class, right? Survivor class. Obviously, we're gonna have to change a lot of stuff since that's what we're gonna be spending most of our time doing. So the Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, and Control V, right? So the way you want this to work is, right, the default values. Actually, I don't think they actually. Yeah, actually, never mind. They actually don't matter. So yeah, just set the default value equal to an empty string for now. And then yeah. So then from there, we will scroll down to after, our default classes, right? Then you can just simply find the own classes folder, copy that, go right after your default class. For me, it's new, paste, and then we're gonna have a new folder. This is going to be called the cooldown folder. This is how we're gonna keep track of this is how we're gonna make it so that each individual ability has its own cooldown. So you could just Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, and then of course it'll be parented to the player, right? You're gonna set up a new function. So put some spaces, then it'll say survivor class. You'll say wait. Oh, actually, I didn't need that, did I? Yeah, I did not need that. Sorry, never mind. Never mind. That was for me when I was testing. But yeah, so then you're gonna go on to the player.character added function, and then I removed a good chunk of this stuff. I think all I left was actually I left nothing actually. Yeah. So you could just delete all of this except for the hitbox stuff. Yeah. Just delete everything except for the hitbox. So it should just be, calling the create hitbox function and then just the health change function. So yeah. That remains the same. Then the died, and then yeah. So then you would come down here, and then of course you got to change this. You would change, you would just change this to survivor class dot value is equal to, and then you put your default, and then here you'd put, again, very important. Make sure you put your default survivor, right? Which like which is like one of the free ones and stuff, right? Right. So then we'll copy that, enter, paste, and then of course you'll change this. Second one will be killer class. Now do your default killer class, which for me is Jason, right? So we'll say Jason, and let me just double check to make sure we're good. Okay, we're good. So yeah. So then from there, I believe we're done with that function. So yeah, we're done with that. Now we're going to move on to the onServer event function. So first things first, of course, we need to add some more stuff to this. So class name variable remains unchanged. You can delete that. Then what you're going to say is you're going to say if character folder dot killers, and then you're going to say find for child class name. So pretty much if the player's trying to switch their killer value, then enter. Then you'll update that. You'll say player dot killer class dot value is equal to class name. Then press enter. Then you could just type the word else, and then just select everything we just did, that entire if statement, copy that, go right next to the else, paste, and then just change killers to survivors, and then simply just change this to survivor class, right? So it checks to see if it's if they're trying to change their killer class or the survivor class, and then update the corresponding value. Then from there, I want to say you can really just scroll down to the combat event, right? So scroll all the way down to the combat event, right? And then after the combat type variable, you're going to create a variable called class type. So you're going to say class type is equal. Now that I think about it. Oh yeah, we'll just do that. Yeah. So you do class type, and then you just put survivor. So by default, we'll assume the players are survivor, mostly, mainly because majority of the people are survivors and stuff. There's only one killer and stuff, and then everyone else is survivors. So we'll just assume the players are survivor, and then we'll check. We'll say if player dot name. This is why we need to keep track of who's the current killer is equal to current killer. Enter. Then you'll just say class type. We'll change to killer, right? This is how we'll keep. So we'll know, right? Because pretty much only the killer should be able to, use M1s and stuff, but we also need to differentiate for, abilities and stuff. So yeah, so once you do that, you're good. Then you'll do if combat type is equal to M1, character folder, and then what you do is you'll change this. You will change this to actually delete that whole thing after the and then you'll just say class type is equal to killer stuff, right? Because only the killer should be able to, use M1s. Then the ability for the class name, of course, you're gonna have to change this. You will say player regular bracket class type, so that's either killer or survivor. Then dot 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 quotation mark class, and then you'll just say dot value, right? And that'll just be the name of that'll just be the name of your class. And then you guys recall the whole combat module thing, where if we open up the combat module and stuff, right? I explained this in I think it was the last video. I think whichever part I did combat, right? You need to have a function for each individual character and stuff, right? If you're getting errors and stuff, it's probably if you're getting errors whenever you try to test the abilities for like because that one should work for any character as long as you have your animations and stuff. But if you're getting errors when you're trying to test abilities for characters and stuff, it's probably because you don't have a function like for each. Because remember, you need this kind of function for each individual character you have, right? This is just our example function that I made for you guys, but yeah. So then we go into the combat module, and then we just have a few changes here. I didn't change it. I didn't need to change anything with the hitbox function. So we go down here, and then we change the animation thing, right? So animation, right here, right? You're gonna say player dot killer. Oh my bad, player dot killer class that value, right? Reason for that is because M1s only people who can do M1s are the killer and stuff. Survivors can't use M1s, cannot use M1s. So then from there, I think because that was the animation, and yeah. So then you would just because I think that's done. I think because that's the animation. It's line 38. Yep. Okay. So then from there, you would just go down, find the task.delay right here, and then obviously, we would just change this So instead of doing, so you do character folder dot killers, and then you would just simply just say player dot killer class dot value, right? Then boom, that's done like that. Then we go to the noob, or your default character function, right? And then you simply have if character attack status return, right? So pretty much this, and then you'll say or, right? Player dot cooldown folder, the folder we created, find first child, then in parentheses you just put ability name. The way it's going to work is whenever you use an ability, it's going to create a value. It's going to create a string value and stuff that's going to be the name of the ability, and it's going to insert itself into the cooldown folder. That's how you'll know if attacks on cooldown. So then after you update the player's attack status, you'll create that cooldown value I just mentioned. So you'll say cooldown value is equal to instance.new string value. Cooldown value dot name is of course equal to the ability name. Cooldown value, and then you can set the value to ability name. Then cooldown value dot parent is equal to player dot cooldown folder, right? And then we're done with that. And then you can just scroll down. I think it's just, yeah, all the way at the bottom. I think after, yeah, okay, so we changed this, right? So you're going to copy this, and then you're just going to paste that. So boom, paste that right there, Control plus V. Right after that, use the ability, and then you're going to change this to just simply destroy the value. You'll just say cooldown value destroy. So boom, just like that, we are done. Let's go ahead and test to make sure everything works as intended and stuff. As always, if you guys want access to any one of my scripts or models, just read the description and you guys can find out how you can gain access to that and stuff. And yeah, so there's definitely a lot more stuff left to do. And whatnot, like I said, if you guys run into any errors or bugs and stuff, as always, you guys already know, just let me know. Okay, so we're on spectators team. Everything's working fine so far. And as you guys can see, if you open up players, this is player one. As you can see, I have my killer class value, and then if I open up my inventory, oh, let me go to the shop, and I don't have any money. Okay, never mind. Unfortunately, I don't have any money. So, but you guys see, we have our killer class and our survivor class, right? And then they're set to each one individually. If I were to change my killer, it would update this value, right? So yeah, that's how things work now. So the round's gonna start in 8 seconds. We just want to make sure everything works as as intended, as normal, and everything, and that there's no errors and whatnot. So round starts. Okay. And then the cutscene, the cutscene plays, the round killer. And by the well, I mean y'all couldn't really see, but I was not able to move during that and stuff, right? Okay, so boom, as you guys can see, I can now use abilities at the same time and stuff, right? I can now use abilities at the same time and everything. I think I can show you guys the sound thing actually. Hold on. I think I can show y'all. Or is it because that's for the survivor? Let me wait. There are no, okay. Just need to make sure because that's the survivor. I think it's working, but then it's not playing. But then I'm not sure if it's just not playing because it's empty, or I'm not honestly sure. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna end the video and I'm gonna test to see and stuff just to make sure. I think it's just because there's no ID in it. It's just the empty sound is why it's not like set to playing and stuff. But because that might just be why and stuff. So yeah, I'll just end the video here. I'll add on to the rest of this video and stuff. If there is a problem, then I'll just fix it and show you guys to fix it in the video. If this is the end of the video and nothing else is after this, then that means, yeah, like everything is good to go. But thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys want to see in the next part of Forsaken. The series is not over. A lot more to come. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.